What are you doing, Danielle? All right, welcome everybody. I'm using the microphone for people who are online. Got about 100 people watching right now. Hopefully that'll climb. So welcome to starting again, meetups. And this time we got famous people. Woo! So I'm Chris. I started Keto Chow, but you're all here for Steve and Amy. So let's go ahead and get them up here. So if any of you don't know, Steve from Serious Keto. So, and I need to turn on your microphone, so I'm going to get off the stage.
Microphone. Oh, wow. Ooh. Maybe a little less on that. Remember, this is Steve's voice. Steve's voice carries. What I'm used to, first, I never wear a mic when I used to teach as a corporate trainer. I believe that you teach to the back of the room. You got to sort of project out to the back of the room. And I have taught countless classes in Lean, Six Sigma, effective teams, persuasion skills, negotiation skills. But I haven't been up in front of a group in over 4 years. So my legs are a little unsteady right now. I hope everybody's going to be nice. We got 100 people, you said, Chris, that are watching online. I sent the invite out to 237,000 people, so I'm not sure what kind of a hit rate that is. But I'm glad you're here, for those of you who are here, and I'm especially glad for those of you that are here. Boy, I forgot to say, hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto. So now that we got that out of the way, I'm also used to, again, when I'm teaching, I'll have the PowerPoint dual mode going on. As a former GE person, I've got mad skills in PowerPoint. And I'd have super cool slides. I have 2 slides here, and this is one of them you're witnessing right now. The amount of work that went into this, mind-blowing. So only 2 slides, so mostly I now need to be entertaining. I also then usually have my other screen up here, so I kind of have a teleprompter of sorts, which I don't have right now. And I spent the majority of this afternoon just running through the talk over and over again that I had written in Word. And I decided at the last minute that I would make some note cards just for reference. Hopefully I don't need to rely upon them too much. And hopefully this will feel mostly conversational rather than like a totally prepared TED Talk sort of thing. So how's everybody feeling? We ready? Should we get this party started? All right. Before we get going, just to be really annoying here, what I'm going to do, you ever wake up in the morning with a song in your head and you have no idea how that song got in your head? Like you haven't heard it in maybe 20 years? Happened to me this morning. Hot Stuff by Donna Summer. Been in my head all day long. I feel like if it's still in my head when I'm getting ready to go to bed, I'm going to have to throw on some Metallica or something like that. That'll usually purge things. So here we go. Let's get serious. There's a problem with keto, in my opinion, and it's getting worse every day. Problem is keto. More specifically, the word keto. What does it mean? What does it mean when we say, I'm keto, or I'm doing keto, or I'm in keto? Seems to mean something different to different people. What does it mean? Well, is it a diet? Is it for weight loss? Is it for improving your health, getting rid of metabolic syndrome, diabetes? I guess it depends. It depends on what word you're truncating. Are you truncating ketosis, or ketogenic, or ketones, or ketoacidosis? So how you define it, or potentially how whomever you follow on YouTube defines it, is going to be how you define it. And that wouldn't be a big problem, were it not for the fact that people, especially on the internet, seem so eager to argue about what keto is. And that creates the problem. So let's start off with the diet. This is great. I made it through my first card without even looking at it. It's just like a prop here. So let's talk about the actual ketogenic diet. developed in 1924 by Dr. Russell Wilder at the Mayo Clinic, which is kind of appropriate, given that we're keto, Mayo. I was expecting I delivered that so much better in dress rehearsal. It was amazingly effective at controlling epilepsy or managing epilepsy. And then, of course, Big Pharma steps in. And instead of let food be thy medicine, as Hippocrates said, it was, we got a pill for that. Better living through chemistry. Now, as I looked at the original keto diet, what I saw was a list of recommended food. Now, the macros were a little more strict on the original diet. It was 90% fat, 6% protein, 4% carbs. So that's pretty hardcore. I mean, that's I don't even know if you could call that carnivore. That's just like fativore. But that was the original. Included on the list of recommended foods were non-starchy vegetables, full-fat dairy, protein, including the ingredient police triggering soy, nuts and seeds, fats, and certain fruits. Though, find a list of forbidden foods. There was a list that said, you can't eat that, that's not keto. Some of the things that I didn't see on the list that didn't exist were soy, gluten, MSG, xanthan gum, seed oils, natural flavors, non-caloric sweeteners, including, allulose, sucralose, etc. I don't know how many of these existed back then, but they weren't there. Because or a way of eating, I prefer to call it that instead of diet, it was a way of eating about, here's what you can eat, not what you can't eat. However, anytime I have a recipe or review a product that has any one of those aforementioned ingredients and many others, the keto police come out in force. I start getting the comments. That's not keto. You're not keto. How dare you call yourself serious keto? Murderer. Murderer. So I get to deal with that. But my attitude is, if you can eat it and stay in ketosis, what's the big deal? I'm going to make this a theme, sort of the next few minutes, which is keto is not one size fits all eating. Look around the room. Are any of us identical? No, we're not. So why should we expect that what we should eat are going to react, are identical? So certain people have celiac, about 1% globally.
I do.
Okay, so you should absolutely stay away from gluten. Anybody else? Anybody else have celiac? You should stay away from gluten. Anybody else? Yeah. You win some gluten. You win some gluten. You win some gluten. Call it a mill. Everybody gets gluten. But if it doesn't cause you inflammation, if it doesn't knock you out of ketosis, what's the problem? Oh, it's got the word wheat in it. So? I mean, it's not a carbohydrate, it's a protein. Now, like I said, if something does cause you inflammation, then you shouldn't have it. For me, soybean oil is a problem. I have something with soybean oil, like whenever I've done those bread tests, and I hit a bread or a tortilla with soybean oil, I feel it in my knuckles, I feel it in my knees. It's horrible. I go back to feeling the way I felt 20 years ago when I felt 70 or 80. Xylitol. I'm not going to use the word that I used in my notes, but it gives me the gurgles from about here down to my knees. I can't eat it. It wrecks me. But just because an ingredient affects me, like soybean oil or xylitol, it may not affect you. So why do I feel empowered to be the ingredient police for you? I shouldn't. That's your business, not mine. I once worked with another trainer, and it wasn't a funny joke that he told, but I had asked him, like, what time is it? Or he asked me what time it was, and I said 10 to. what? I asked him, tend to your own business. It's not all that. Tend to your own business. Police, manage your own keto. Additionally, I think that some of these keto police and ingredient police don't recognize the fact that the dose makes the poison. This is a maxim attributed to Paracelsus. The original saying was, everything is poison and there is nothing without poison. It is the dose alone that makes something not a poison. So basically what we're saying is anything, you get too much of it, it's going to be bad for you. But almost anything you can have a little bit of, and it's not the end of the world. Speaking of which, you look at some of the studies that are cited by some of the YouTube doctors and wannabe doctors, where they say, oh, something is bad for you that we fed to rats. And you extrapolate the amount that was fed to them to a human level. And the amounts are just ridiculous. The sucralose study that is often cited, this before I ever saw Chris's calculator out on the Keto Chow site, where I'm like, okay, this is what I weigh and this is what a mouse weighs. This is what they fed to a mouse. How much sucralose would I need to eat? And then Chris I found his calculator out on the website. I would have to eat 78 pouches of Keto Chow every day to equal what was fed in sucralose to these mice that upset their tummy. So this is one of the problems. We take something, we feed it in massive quantities in a lab environment, we don't know who funded it, and then somebody gets up, reads an excerpt, and tells you, it's horrible, you must not eat this. They create a thumbnail looking all surprised, like, oh, most horrible ingredient ever. This one ingredient is worse than anything that has ever happened to humanity. It's like the asteroid that took out the dinosaurs. Maybe you've seen some of those thumbnails. So, as I create recipes, just day in and day out, I'm being told ingredients are not keto. Among them, soy, because apparently if you use a tablespoon of it in a marinade, your gender will change. Baking powder, because it contains some cornstarch, just it makes it easier to measure. But you're using a quarter teaspoon of it and something that's going to feed 6 people. The dose is minute. Some of the other sort of surprising things I've been told are not keto. Tomatoes, mushrooms, onions, garlic, almonds, nutritional yeast. Actually, the list goes on and on. But even worse than these people just saying these things aren't keto are the people that say things that are completely factually and chemically wrong. Like, vital wheat gluten is a code name for MSG. That is not true. Natural flavors are made from antifreeze. I have actually gotten that. And these people think, I don't know, they're trying to like make me look stupid. Not working. What is this? This is this is a great one too that I get in comments regularly. People will say something is keto because that particular recipe does not perfectly match the keto macros. So you make a recipe and it's not, 80, 15, 5 or 70, 20, 10. Okay. Good thing I did math back in school. It's hard. Hey Siri, what are the macros? So, people will be like that. I'm like, it's not, this is one meal or a side dish. It's not every single bite you put into your head hole needs to meet the macros. I had one viewer tell me that Keto Chow is not keto because it doesn't contain fat. So Chris, you're gonna have to rename it now to just Chow. So, I should have the reading glasses handy. Now we're getting deeper into this, and I'm starting to dig into the cards. One of my favorite keto people, I'd probably even call him a keto hero of mine, is Dr. Eric Westman. And he points out repeatedly that keto is not about high fat. It's about low carbs. If it were about high fat, then everybody eating standard American diet would probably be in keto, because most of us were eating a whole lot of fat before keto as well, just a lot of crummy carbs. Yet You go on a fast and you're not eating anything, including fat, watch those ketones shoot way up. So I got to point out another thing as long as I'm talking about Dr. Westman. My favorite quote from him, and I repeat it often, is there is no such thing as a keto food. Keto is a metabolic state. You are either in ketosis, you are either fat burning, or you are not. And different people are going to go into ketosis, different people are going to get fat adapted differently from one another. Because, as we stated before, different people are different. So you can't have a one-size-fits-all approach to keto. You may have to be very strict with your keto. You may, like Miriam right now, need to be on a keto where you're looking at 15 total grams of carbs per day in order to achieve your keto goals. And I'm not trying to brag here, but I can eat like a total carboholic for 2 or 3 days straight. I did this back in October when we went for our anniversary trip, my wife and I. Say hello, Terry. I ate like I was not keto at all. I got home, grabbed the Keto Mojo, still read a 0.3 after 3 days. Now I'm not in nutritional ketosis, but I'm making ketones. That doesn't mean that I recommend doing this. But because different people are different, we need to know how our own bodies react to different foods. We need to be measuring our ketones, maybe checking our blood glucose. But we need to be aware that all of this keto stuff that these influencers are talking about aren't rules, not laws. They're guidelines. They're there. We should look at them as something that could be helpful if we're struggling with the way that we're doing keto. Let's see here. I talked about no forbidden foods. So in terms of the no forbidden foods, there are certain things like refined grains and sugars, we could eat them on keto, true. But in such minuscule quantities that it just doesn't make sense to do so. I could have a tablespoon of sugar per day and call that and stay in ketosis. But it's an absolute waste of carbs. Why would I want to do that when I could eat something that actually has some nutritional value? When I could have Chris's loaded cauliflower or loaded broccoli from Texas Roadhouse. I'm getting more bang for my buck. So they are guidelines, and we use our common sense to determine which we should use. I mean, a metaphor in terms of like common sense. There's no law or rule that says you shouldn't run with scissors. Common sense, though, says don't run with scissors. There's no rule or law that says don't eat sushi from a gas station. Common sense would dictate we shouldn't have sushi from a gas station. Sadly, common sense seems to be rather lacking in a small but very vocal contingent of people in the keto community, including a handful of influencers. And I'm not going to name any because I made a vow on the keto channel I would badmouth behavior that I didn't like, but I would never name a channel. But you probably already know who I'm talking about. And it's fine. It's fine if they want to get up and do these clickbaity thumbnails. They're trying to make money. That's great. The issue is they're the ones that are giving keto a bad name, in my opinion. They are the ones that give keto the reputation of being difficult and unsustainable and restrictive. And it doesn't have to be that way. Unfortunately, you're always going to have these sort of extremists in anything, whether it's politics or religion or nutrition or Star Wars collecting. There's always going to be that tiny little percentage of crazy people that get the publicity and make the rest of us look crazy by association. That then when we tell people we're keto, they're like, ooh, that's bad. That's bad for you. You shouldn't do that. You're going to die. So keto, in my opinion, it needs to be sustainable. It needs to be enjoyable. It needs to be versatile. It needs to be affordable. To me, that is what keto is about. And there is only one keto rule: stay in ketosis. Make keto as easy or as hard as it needs to be for you to meet your keto goals. I'm gonna jump ahead here because I feel like I'm running rather along here. I would also say that when we have these influencers, it's not just them. You get the people that are such zealous and devout followers of some of these influencers who then go on to other keto channels and start saying, you're lazy keto, dirty keto, and you're not keto at all. And the problem is, in my opinion, that's not just incorrect, it's a big turnoff to people. That sort of self-righteous behavior. Think if you ever wanted to join a club for anything and you walked in and immediately they start chewing you out and telling you, you're doing it wrong, this is how we do it around here, these are the rules. This club sucks, I'm out of here. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people when they try and get into keto. They're like, brain is going to explode with all of these things you're throwing at me, all these rules and regulations, and I got to measure this and measure that and count net carbs or total carbs and all of this stuff. It shouldn't have to be that way. And as I look at the way I do keto, I would say it is a lot closer to what Dr. Westman and his co-author, Amy Berger, describe. Yes. How's that for a lead in? Describe in their book, Your Carb Confusion, which I reviewed on this last Monday's Not So Serious Keto podcast. And you should totally check out the Amazon sales on that, Amy. I think I might have helped you out a little bit there. So money in the bank. Ching. I don't count carbs. I don't count total. I don't count net. I will, when I'm at the grocery store, look at the back of a package and say, ooh, I don't think so. Either in terms of, I'll be like, oh, okay, way too many carbs. If it's an unfamiliar food, or, oops, soybean oil, or xylitol. And I'll put it back. But aside from that, you learn keto and a lifestyle way of eating should be about learning what your body can tolerate, learning how your body operates best, learning what gives you energy, learning what makes you tired, learning what gives you inflammation, learning what gives you depression, all of that stuff. So we need to look at keto as an individual thing. It's for us. There's nothing wrong with being the keto police for ourselves, but we shouldn't police other people. I was going to draw here. This is going to be my summary. I just skipped over 3 slides. Watch the director's cut on home video. So, eating the way that I eat. I have been doing this 4 years. I know some of you in here have been doing it longer than me. That tells me it is not unsustainable. I can't imagine quitting. I find the variety is fun. And I'm a foodie, if you weren't aware. I love to cook. I love to eat. It's a love thing. I love my wife too. But I draw so much happiness out of it. And I don't find keto restrictive at all. In fact, I find it sort of an opportunity to flex my culinary muscles. I can try out new and unfamiliar things. And that makes it fun. And that was really one of the goals of Serious Keto as I started the channel. I wanted people to have that same sort of fun that I have. Cooking, it feels really neat. You make something, you're like, I made this, and this is awesome. And then you give it to like a non-keto family member, and they're like, wow, this is awesome. And you're like, that's keto. In the movie Rattle and Hum, the U2 concert movie, there's a point where Bono is introducing the song Helter Skelter. And he says, and I can't do a Bono imitation. I can do like Homer Simpson, but that would totally not be appropriate at this time. But Bono says, as he's introducing Helter Skelter, Charles Manson stole this song from the Beatles. Tonight, we're taking it back. I feel those of us that have a common sense and pragmatic attitude, need to do the same thing with keto. I'm tired of getting bullied by the keto police. I'm tired of these people sullying the reputation of keto and making it wind up in the bottom 2 published list of best and worst diets. Thank you, carnivore, for being the last. But anytime you read one of these in Health Magazine or U.S. News and World Report, it's like, well, first, of course, you're going to die from the fat. But then the big knock is it's unsustainable and too restrictive. And I disagree. And I think it's our mission to get out and show that keto can, in fact, be pragmatic, and fun. And we can be empathetic to the dietary choices of others, whether they are more strict or less strict than us. One of the terms I use very frequently when I talk about keto and how we need to create a good keto community is we need to pitch a bigger tent. We need to be more welcoming of people rather than turning them off with self-righteous, dogmatic hyperbole about you can't do this, this will kill you, and all of that. Oh, perfect timing. Like you knew it was coming. Pragmatic means if it works for you, it works. So when people tell you that keto doesn't work, you can say, check it out. Look at how I've changed. Look at the life that I'm living now. Look at the health benefits that I've achieved. You can't tell me that it doesn't work because I'm walking, talking proof. So let's all make a commitment, if we can, to try and be pragmatic and common sense about our keto. And I suspect that Amy is going to continue this message as I step off the stage and relinquish it to her. Oh. Thanks for watching.
This is so much more fun than like these stuffy academic conferences. I just feel like if I screw up, it's not a big deal, even though there's lots of people watching online.
Yeah.
We're good? Good to go. Okay. Hey, everybody. How about a hand for Steve? I feel like this weekend is the first time that I've met Steve in person, and he and I our minds could not be more melded in terms of the message of sanity and affordability and inclusivity that I think we want with keto. But he's serious keto. I feel like we need to merge and have serious keto without the crazy. That would just be a really long motto. But anyway, I'm going to blow through some of this quick because I think Steve and I really want to get to like the Q&A discussion portion. And so I kind of don't even want to give this talk, but I'm going to because there's hi YouTube land, you're here in person, people are watching online, so gotta deliver. Who am I? If anyone here doesn't know me, I am a low carb and keto nutritionist and writer. We are giving away 2 of my books, and I helped write the curriculum that the American Nutrition Association uses to certify other nutritionists in the ketogenic diet. I am on the exam committee that writes the CNS exam for the certified nutrition specialist. I may have been able to finagle some questions in there about carbohydrate restriction, insulin, all that good stuff. So I am also the lead nutritionist for Adapt Your Life Academy, which is created by Dr. Eric Westman, and we do online courses about keto. So that's lifeacademy.com. I also write for Keto Chow. I write some of their blog articles, the really long, boring ones. That's probably me. All the recipes, that's Taffy Elrod. They've got the right. Anyway, yes, I write for Keto Chow. Okay, let's start with a little survey. Does anyone here happen to follow a low-carb or ketogenic diet? Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay, I'm in the right place. Actually, can you stand up? Stand up if you currently follow a low-carb or keto diet. Okay, excellent. Now, if you have ever eaten more carbohydrate than you intended, please sit down. Okay. I had other questions. Appetite suppressing diet even after going keto. Have you ever eaten when you're not hungry? And then more of you would have sat down, except we're good.
You're back.
All right, so, except you all sat down from the first question. Like, even though we're on a keto diet, we still eat more carbs than we plan to. We still eat when we're not hungry. We eat past full, all that stuff. So, and how many of you, and maybe don't raise your hand if you're embarrassed, but I'll raise my hand so nobody feels alone. When you do stuff like that, how many of you have something to yourself like, I can't believe I did it again. Can't believe I did that. What's wrong with me? Why can't I just do this? Why can't I figure that everyone else has this all figured out? Right, so I saw plenty of hands. That's why we need to talk on mindset. Nobody needs me to stand up here and tell you what to eat. Like, don't eat pasta and bread. Oh, thanks for that news flash, Amy. I'm so glad I came to this meetup. Nobody needs to hear us talk about protein and carbs anymore. Maybe if you're brand new to this, but we all know what to do. The question is, why is it so hard to actually do it sometimes, right? We know what to do. We're ninjas in so many other aspects of our lives, right? Some of you are great moms, grandfathers, fantastic employees. Maybe you're a doctor, you're whatever, you're scoutmaster, leader at your church. And we can't figure out this food thing. What is there? Something about food that is so much harder than the rest of life, right? So I don't like this slide. We'll blow through it. Actually, almost forgot one thing. In 10 years as a nutritionist, in 10 years of helping people with keto, do you know what I have not heard? Not even once. Not once has anyone ever said to me, Amy, you know when this whole keto thing clicked? You know when I finally stuck to keto? Was when I told myself what a loser I was for the 479th time. I just didn't hate myself quite enough to actually stick to keto. I just had to be sure that I was an absolute failure for the 900th time. That's when I actually did. No, right? You cannot hate yourself to health. You cannot hate yourself into good health. So what are we going to do? How are we going to get rid of this negative talk? Because it is so much easier said than done. So many of us have lived with a negative tape, and I'm old enough that I'm thinking of a cassette tape and the reels are going. We've lived with this negative inner monologue playing in our mind ceaselessly all the time. How are we going to get rid of it? Start by being nicer to ourselves. First, we're going to notice when these thoughts come. First, what is the first step of anything? Being aware, acknowledging that something's happening. Like, oh, there's that terrible thought again about what a loser and a giant failure I am, huh? Investigate driving feelings. Why am I having that thought? Why do I think I'm such a failure? Why am I telling myself I'm a loser? Choose different thoughts. This is very difficult. Like I said, much easier said than done. You have to deliberately say, you know what? I've been thinking that for 40 years. I think just today, let me deliberately think something else for a minute. Let me specifically choose a different kind of thought. Then we've got evolve over. This whole process is going to evolve over time, like because you'll get rid of some thoughts and other new ones will come up to explore. So this is not a one and done. This is not Ron Popeil's rotisserie, set it and forget it. This is something you've got to keep doing over time, and then revisit. Because just when you think that you've squashed one of those thoughts, oh, there it hits you upside the face again. Oh, loser thought, I thought I killed you 6 months ago. You're back, so you have to revisit and do it again. I am going to give you some concrete strategies, like actionable tactics to actually start doing this process. So one of them is called the thought ladder. And I borrow this from a woman named Cara Lowenthal, and I have to give her credit because I don't want to get sued. Cara Lowenthal is a lawyer, and she does not need, so she gets credit for this. If you are trying to climb a ladder, and you're standing there at the bottom rung, you cannot go from the bottom rung to the top rung in one fell swoop. We are not Superman, no matter how much we think we are. We have to go rung by rung, tiny step by tiny step. And so I used to be really into positive affirmations. Anyone know positive affirmations? They are these statements that you make in the present tense, in the first person. I am a wonderful success. I am a fabulous spouse. I am this. I have a fabulous life, whatever it is. You're supposed, even if you don't believe it, even if it's not true, they say if you say it enough, you will eventually believe it. That did not work for me so well. That was a massive failure for me because I am not capable of faking it till I make it. I can't tell myself something that I know to be factually incorrect. I cannot go from hating myself and feeling like a failure and loathing myself at the bottom of the ladder to the top rung where I'm the greatest person who ever lived. I cannot do it. So how can I get myself up onto that first rung and then onto the next rung? How can I make these baby steps instead? So I'm going to give you some examples, and these are the exact examples that Cara Lowenthal uses. We have a negative thought like, my stomach is disgusting. Oh, it's just covered in stretch marks. It's so jiggly. It's gross. In an ideal world, we would replace it with a positive thought. We would say instead, my stomach is gorgeous. I love this stomach, right? Another example, it's that my stomach is repulsive. Oh, kids run screaming on the other side of the street. It's hideous. In an ideal world, we just positive affirmation, replace it. I'm an irresistible goddess. Who wouldn't want this stomach? Oh, you people stop laughing out there at home. No, it doesn't work that way. If you feel that bad about yourself, you cannot just magically pretend that you're beautiful and that you love yourself. So what we can do, what is realistic, is replacing the negative thought with a neutral thought. And I will give you the examples that Cara Lowenthal uses. Same example, my stomach's disgusting. We're not going to go from that to believing that you're so beautiful and irresistible. But a neutral thought, maybe we can believe, I have a... What is that? That is a statement. It's just a fact. There's no emotional charge to it. It's not good. It's not bad. There's no morality. It's a statement. I have a stomach. Instead of my stomach is absolutely repulsive, I'm gross, no one will ever love me. Neutral thought. There's an organ inside my body, and it's called the stomach. Again, what have we accomplished here? We have completely removed the drama. We've removed the shame. We've removed the stigma. We've removed that emotional heavy, oh, I'm so disgusting. I'm so ugly. It removes all of the charge out of it, completely diffuses the pain and the suffering. So how does this apply to keto? And I mean, what I just said applies to some of us maybe, but keto specifically. Let's say, oh, I don't know anyone who's ever said this to themselves. I mean, this is just a made-up example, right? I'll never lose this weight. I'm never gonna. Ideal world, ideal scenario, if we could jump from the bottom of the ladder to the top, we think, I will lose 5 pounds a month every month until I effortlessly get to my goal. Great, woohoo, all right. Negative thought, why can't I just do this already? What's wrong with me? The 4 most demoralizing words in the world. Positive thought, ideal, magical kingdom world. I stick to keto perfectly. Keto is my middle name. K Berger, right? No, my middle name is just actually L. I just keep messing up. I'll never get this right. Ideal scenario, I'm a keto ninja. Nobody's ever ketoed harder than me. Again, that's a no. Again, it doesn't work that way. Ain't gonna happen. What can happen? What are some neutral thoughts that we can replace the negative thoughts with regard to keto? I'll never lose this weight. How about, I'm eating so much less carbohydrate than I used to. Maybe I need to get to 50 grams or 30 or 20 grams until I really start getting some results, but you know what? And I'm eating 100 now. 6 months ago, I was eating 300 grams of carbs. I'm already doing so much better than I was. My weight loss is so 5-0 slow. So I'm such a slow loser. This is going to be a long-term process, and that's okay. It's fact. It's going to be, you're not going to lose this weight overnight. It's okay. Just keep messing up. I'll never get this right. This is one of my favorites. How about the neutral? And these aren't even neutral thoughts. They're pretty positive when you think about it. These are more empowering. They're not just neutral. Every time I try this, I learn more about what works and what doesn't. You know, this is my 4th time around trying this keto thing. Last time, I was hitting that family-sized bag of pork rinds pretty hard every night. Maybe I should ditch the pork and see what happens. Last time I tried keto, I was polishing off one of those pints of keto ice cream every other night. Maybe, what if I ice cream this time and I see how it goes? You know, every time I try this, I'm learning more about how it works. Why can't I just do this already? What's wrong with me? Again, I'm so glad to know there's an option waiting for me when I'm ready. I haven't been able to stick to keto, starting and stopping and starting and stopping. At some point, eventually, I'm going to be ready to do this. And I'm so grateful to know that there's a method that works. I know it works because it's working for so many people. And as soon as I feel ready to actually do this, I know what to do. Okay, a couple more actionable tactics. And I don't want to speak too fast because I want everyone to hear everything, but I'm so excited to get to the discussion and Q&A with Steve. But Mooching Tenant, anyone here have a teenager living at home or a roommate who maybe wasn't the best about cleaning up after themselves? They just kind of, leave 3 days worth of dirty dishes accumulating and there's all sorts of stuff all over the floor and the place is just a mess. What about the Mooching Tenant who does that up here? Many of us have a mooching, irresponsible person who lives up here, who dirties the place and makes a mess and just walks away and leaves us to deal with the aftermath. So, when you have these negative thoughts, I'm such a failure, such a loser, I'm so fat, I'll never lose this weight, what's wrong with me? Those thoughts are going to come. You cannot stop them from coming. So don't live in fantasy land thinking, oh, there's going to be some magical day where I just never have a negative thought. They're going to come, but you do not have to let them move in permanently. The good thing, you can kick that tenant out, evict them. Don't let them rent space up here permanently. You're going to get better about shifting those thoughts and, I said notice in nicer beat, notice the thoughts. You're going to get better at noticing them and deflecting and deliberately choosing that different thought. You could even give your mooching tenant a name. Make a little game out of it. There's someone else I follow. Her name is Judith Gatton, and she calls her little inner petulant child Tallulah. So when Tallulah, what? What's that? I'm a huge failure. Everyone hates me, and nothing I've ever done has succeeded. Oh, that's just Tallulah. That's just Tallulah spouting her stupid nonsense. Don't listen to her. She's worthless, Or have even more fun with it. What's that? Everybody hates me. I'm a massive failure. I'm a waste of life. Oh, Tallulah. I almost didn't recognize her. Hey, girl, how's it going? Good to see you. Oh, what? Everything I touch dies? Oh, okay, I appreciate your input, but today I'm going to think something different. Your input is noted. I appreciate your opinion. I'm just going to think something else just for today. Right? So don't give that tenant any space up there. One more tactic. Is it helpful? When you think these things, I'm such a failure. I'll never figure out this keto thing. Why do I keep screwing up? Even if that's true, or it's true in your mind, you think it's true, is it helpful? Is it helping you in any way to keep repeating, I'm such a failure. I'll never figure this out. I'm so fat. Look at my stomach. Is that helpful? Probably not, even though it feels true. It's not helping you. Ask how I know after 44 years. So whether a thought is true is irrelevant. Again, even if it is true that you're 200 pounds overweight or your last A1C was 14, even if it's true, so what? And if it's something, an opinion of yourself, even if you really believe it, like, I'll never figure this out. I screw up every time. I'll never lose this weight. Even if you really believe it, what matters is it helpful? Most of the time, it's not. All those things I just said, not helpful at all in any way, unless you are one of the rare specimens who thinks, oh my God, I'm so disgusting. I'm going to stick to keto every single day for the rest of my life, which some people out there like that. What did I say earlier? You cannot hate yourself healthy. You can't shame yourself into doing this. All right. I think I already went through this. Even if you do have these thoughts, even if you've been thinking them for 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, these thoughts do not have to be permanent. You can choose a new thought anytime you want. It's like going to a buffet. Why would you choose the nasty, old, moldy, soggy thoughts when you could have this amazing, like, grilled ribeye with blue cheese thought over here? I mean, you get to choose your thoughts. Nobody is forcing you to think that you're a failure or you're horrible and you're unlovable. And again, I know it's not easy to choose a new thought, but we can do it because it's just a thought. It's not a fact. No matter how long you've thought. Okay, what can you do today? Even let's say if something is true, it is objectively true. I've never been able to stick to keto. What can we do right now to make it start not being true? Can you get up and go to the fridge and empty out the stuff you maybe shouldn't have bought? Empty out those carbs. Could you sit down and write a grocery list for you to go to the store tomorrow? Pick out some beef, get some chicken, get some broccoli, get some coconut oil. Can you even go and pull out the pack of beef and leave it out to defrost? Take one tiny step to prove to yourself that from this moment on, it doesn't have to be true. Just because something has been true for 30 years, it can stop being true right now. We can start having a new truth in the moment that we choose to. So I said take. Okay, last tactic, I saved the best for last. Again, I don't actually have anything brilliant to say. I just borrow from other people and I share it with you, but I always give them credit. This comes from a lady named Elizabeth Benton Thompson. She wrote a book called Chasing Cupcakes. And anyone here happen to be familiar with that book? One person. It is a phenomenal book. If you struggle with overeating, or you struggle with binging, or you struggle with self-image of any kind, even overindulgence in anything, overspending, over shopping, over video gaming, Chasing Cupcakes is a really great book to read about that. So I know it might be hard to see, but let's say this is somebody who is doing a ketogenic diet and they are aiming to be perfect, right? Aiming for perfect. This is a graph of 21 days of this person aiming for perfect. It goes from 0 to 10. Now let's say a 10 day is you stuck to keto perfectly, or whatever macros, whatever you're doing, you knocked it out of the park. You ate exactly the things that fit, everything's great. A 0, you're like face first in the cupcakes, you got frosting in your hair, it's a nightmare. And then we've got everything in between. So I see out of these 3 weeks, it's 21 days, this person is, there's a 9, there's some 8s. This person's doing really well sometimes. I also see some 2s and 3s, some 1s. If you look really close, day 11 and 14 there's a 0. There's a goose egg there. So this person is wildly inconsistent. They're perfect once in a while. They are so over the map. They're not even on a low carb diet half the time. They're like eating keto some days and some days not even close. Now let's compare this. Aiming to be consistent. This person knows, listen, I know myself. I am not going to be perfect at this every single day. I'm not going to nail this every moment. I'm just going to do the best I can for as long as I can. So now if I look here real close, I don't see any 10s. This person is not absolutely crushing it at any point. Well, they kind of are, but I also don't see any 0s there. I don't even see anything 1 or 2, 3. If you look closely, this person is a 6 or better every day. 6 or better. So they're never absolutely perfect, but they are pretty darn good all the time. Who do we think is going to get better results? The person who's trying to be the perfect keto ninja and failing half the time, or the person who's just doing the best they can and is nailing it all the time? And so instead of this, the low days, I screwed up again, I have to restart, what's wrong with me, the whole 9 yards. This doesn't expect to ever hit 10. So when they don't hit 10, they don't have to feel like a failure because they weren't trying to be perfect anyway. So instead of beating themselves up for falling short, they get to celebrate how well they're doing. This is when I have so many clients that I have to point out to them, you are better than you think you are. Because they're comparing themselves, probably some of the people that neither Steve nor I want to mention by name, they're comparing themselves to some crazy guru out there online whom we don't really know what's going on in their lives when the camera's off, frankly. But anyway, again, this person gets to celebrate how well they're doing, and they get out of themselves much better than they used to. They don't feel like a failure because they weren't in the first place. So so that is just keep in mind the phrase consistent. Summary. We talked about it doesn't matter if a thought is true. It doesn't matter. It matters, is it helping you to think it? Is it doing you any good to think what that thing is? The Mooching Tenant, that Tallulah in your brain or whatever, give it a name. Whatever name you want. If you hate your Uncle Bill, you just, oh, stupid Bill again going off about his nonsense. Whatever it is, give it a name, make it fun. Those thoughts are going to come. You don't have to let them squat permanently. And I like to think of it as like, if you've ever been outside and you've seen a flock of birds fly by, you kind of notice it like, oh, look at that pretty, and you kind of notice, and go, and it's over. That's how these thoughts can be. They're just, and I wish that we could get them to stop coming. They're not ever going to. But I think they can get quieter, and we get better about letting them just fly past instead of stewing in them for 3-4 hours, 3-4 days sometimes. The thought ladder, one of my favorites. What I love about the thought ladder is that the new thought, remember, you can't go from the terrible negative thought to a super positive happy thought. We've got to go to a neutral thought, something that's realistic that we can believe. I have a stomach inside my body, doesn't have to feel good. It just has to feel less bad. That makes it so much easier, right? I don't have to believe I have the most gorgeous stomach ever, because I don't. But I can believe there's an organ inside me, and like a couple hundred years ago, somebody named it a stomach. Totally emotion out of it. And my very favorite, consistency over perfection. That wasn't the goal. Instead of beating yourself up for where you think you're falling short. And this is where you can find me. I am Keto Without the Crazy. I am on YouTube. I am very active on Twitter. That's my main social media. And again, adaptyourlifeacademy.com. We are running a 7-day keto challenge in January. Just go to adaptyourlifeacademy.com. We have our Keto Made Simple Masterclass, a flagship course with myself and Dr. Westman. This will be our 8th round. So we've had a lot of people go through, and if you're doing great and you don't need any help, don't bother. If you're not doing so great and you need help and you need a reset back to the very, very basics, Keto Made Simple will really help you. But thank you for coming. Thank you out there for watching. And thank you to Chris and Miriam and the whole Keto Chow family for setting this up.
Okay, we're going to have Steve and Amy talk for a bit.
Yes. I need water now. Let me grab a water.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. Is that the
So hold
last
on
water?
just a second, guys.
Are there any more waters? Okay, thanks.
You're doing Eric on the, he uses your channel for his interviews and his.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna grab one of these. Thank you.
Oh, and
Thank you.
Amy,
Thanks
whatever
a
you're
lot.
saying,
Thanks.
people can hear you right now.
Huh? What? Here. I can't sit on this thing.
One thing on your mic.
Can't wait.
We're having a couple cuts. So.
Uh-oh. Well, that might be because of this too. It might have. It might have been.
It wasn't
oh,
that.
Okay.
It was
Totally reversible. You just have to, like she was saying, consistent.
okay. Here you go.
Thanks. All right, where can I?
Okay. So hang on. Here we go.
I don't know where to put this. I'll just maybe put it back there. Yeah. Wait. Let's.
Oh, you're.
Yeah. I could not have everything you said. Even Dr. Westman is like, bread is keto if you eat that much. The people with the maltodextrin, how much maltodextrin is in blend? It's like oh, the glycemic index. Yeah, but you're eating a microgram of it. Like what? I might still be mic'd.
you're
Well,
still mic'd up.
that's fine. If YouTube is hearing me, I don't think that's anything they haven't heard me say before.
It's
Right,
the behind the
YouTubes?
scenes thing.
Yeah. So people charge extra sometimes for this kind of stuff, right? That's what I'm saying.
That's how the sausage is made.
Exactly.
However long it's been, I lost 30 pounds. Basically kept it off. I lost 30 pounds and then none of those are the.
Oh, keto chows.
Okay. Gotta switch these out one more time.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm up here.
You're up there? Well, that makes it easy.
Well, now it's around me.
I'm gonna be somebody else now. All right.
Ooh, it's a very soft bottle.
Yes. What? Okay, well, just to get a sound level. So, all right, we're getting a sound level right now. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Pretty good. What was your favorite thing at the Brazilian steakhouse?
Ooh, the garlic steak.
I was still, I think, burping that this morning.
And it was probably worth it.
Yeah, I don't know.
The picanha was good. I did not have the jalapenos. I did not try that.
They were okay. Would have liked the bacon a little more done. Recommend.
Chicken hearts are a little too chewy and tough for me.
And the tri-tip was also a little overdone.
It looked a little dry for tri-tip, I thought. I didn't take any, I don't think.
I used to make tri-tip a lot, and then Guy Fieri in one of his shows like mentioned tri-tip, and then suddenly tri-tip. Okay.
Right on.
Right. There was actually an end to that sentence. That wasn't just for sound level.
Yeah, are we going to start with questions or like, I mean...
Or are you going to take questions, or how's this going to work, Chris?
I mean, I have a comment for Steve that I could start with.
Okay.
Yeah, we can take questions. We've got a microphone. If anybody has questions.
Okay, we're back in business. Everybody, eyes up here.
So if anybody has questions for Steve and Amy, Miriam is going to bring around a microphone to you. I don't know.
Although, listen, full confession here. When there's podcasts, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, only some keto these days, I actually really hate the witty banter beforehand. So if nobody wants witty banter, we don't have to do it. Sometimes I'm like, all right, skip to the guest, but whatever. I mean, I have a comment that Steve and I just met for the first time in person last night. But we are so on the same page, it's ridiculous. And I think it's because our approaches are both so down to earth and so, like you said, if you have celiac disease or if you have a very severe reaction to something or some specific medical condition that you need to be more careful, that of course, do what you need to do. But the average person just starting a low carb or keto diet, it's such a turnoff, and it honestly puts up a huge roadblock to people even starting this. When you tell them, hey, not only do you have to cut out all the sugar and starch from your life that you've been eating your whole life, but you also have to make all your own salad dressing at home because you can't buy what's at the supermarket. You have to make your own mayonnaise. You can't eat, conventionally raised chicken and pork. You have to spend $85 a pound. And that is automatically going to be a deal breaker, and you're going to keep out some of the people that need this the most and that can benefit the most. And it's a turnoff. It's it's insulting to people
It's also you're forcing people to go from rung 1 to rung 12. I think it would be pretty amazing if all of us knew what sort of carb intake we had pre-keto. I think our brains would explode. We would literally, just go grab a Cinnabon at some point and say, I used to eat one of these 5-pound, thingies. How many carbs are in a Cinnabon, for example? Yeah, in one sitting. And it's so easy to do. And you don't do that anymore. But someone starting from keto to say you got to literally go from 0 to 100, that's a tough putt.
Yeah, and it just also, I see in the clients that I work with sometimes, that quest for purity actually starts to work against you because of the psychological and mental. Even if you're in excellent health, who cares if you have 6-pack abs or 8 or 10 packs or whatever packs people have now, and your A1C is 4.9? If you are miserable all day, you feel you haven't dined out with a friend in 10 years because the restaurant might use canola oil, or to be living in a prison of your own making with this food purity, everything has a trade-off. And again, if somebody out there enjoys that style of doing things, do it. But I see it working against, and keto is supposed to make life better and more enjoyable and more fun and free you up into doing things. And I see people letting it take them the other way and box them in.
I think, and I'm going to do the show of hands thing now before we get to questions. How many of you, is this the second or more than second time that you've gone on keto or low carb? Okay, so a handful of us, a significant percentage, had tried it once and then stopped at some point. For me, I started, just hit my microphone, I should know better than that. I started, I'm trying to remember what year it was. It was not that long after our marriage that I stumbled onto Dr. Atkins' New Diet Revolution. And this would have been 25 years ago. And you didn't have nearly the amount of low carb options that we have now. There were no cooking channels or anything like that that did low carb or keto. There weren't a lot of the ingredients that we can utilize now. And it starts off cool, that first couple of weeks on Atkins, eating nothing but bacon cheeseburgers without buns and a fried egg on top. But you get tired then. It gets too restrictive and you stop. And you start beating yourself up when you have that little failure. You're like, well, I kind of failed a little, so I'm just going to roll with it. I mean, I already had one Cheeto. Let's go eat some Kringle. Okay, no Wisconsinites here. You're not familiar with Kringle? Google Kringle. It is like the most amazing sort of fruit-filled pastry you can imagine. So you're familiar with Kringle. Okay, you can vouch for me. All right, great. I want to say thank you to Joe Stauffer, who texted me and said, "Great job, Steve, you nailed it." So yeah, Joe Stauffer's watching. Hey, say everybody, hey Joe, hey Rachel. All right. That's the only shout out I'm giving. I already gave the wife like 3 or 4. So, all right. Do we have any questions for us? This is your opportunity here.
I mean, you can ask about keto, ask about cooking, Alzheimer's. I'm working on my 4th book right now about thyroid, so, any and all questions are welcome.
I'm not going to ask.
Nothing to speak of.
I'm not going to ask a question. I was just going to say I've tried so many times at my work. They will buy me keto stuff, but they still buy big giant apple pies and all sorts of crazy things. But when my dad's wife just passed away and he moved back home, I forced him to go keto. I'm almost carnivore. And to say in the month and a half he's lived with me, he's lost 15 pounds.
Wow.
He is grumpy about it. He's very grumpy about it. Yeah. They had to take him off of one of his blood pressure medicines. He's 86, okay? Take him off one of his blood pressure medicines and half the other one. And he said he got a lecture from his urologist. And I said, and you told him that he had this much education? And he said, no. And I'm like, okay, But he's still getting healthier, and that's all I care about. He can grump all he wants.
At some point, that grumpy goes away when you start feeling 20 years younger and you throw away that last amber bottle with a prescription on it because you don't need it anymore. That's a pretty, you talk about non-scale victories. Those are some biggies right there.
I'm grateful to Chris and Miriam for helping me transition from a phase 1 to a phase 2. And I'm confident that Eric and Amy can help me transition from phase 2 to phase 3. I hope you get more people to read your book.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Following up on your positive message about rewriting your tapes, one of the best pieces of advice I was given about a year ago was keto on like it didn't happen. Don't wait till Monday to start again. Start right then and there. And I will give you, the attribution is to Dr. Ken Berry.
Who's that? Who's that Berry guy? Never heard of him.
My question is, I started this October 2nd, 2018. And within a very short while, I lost 70 pounds.
Wow.
And then the pandemic hit. I didn't get the pandemic 15, I got the pandemic 30. Yes, I ate some of my emotions, but I stopped myself. I'm still not losing. I've gone back straight keto. What the keto that works for me, but it's not working. I haven't lost anything, and in the last month I've started gaining again. Does anybody have any ideas how I could retweak this?
So I'm going to defer since you're the nutrition specialist.
The first thing I want to say is I totally agree with what Dr. Berry said about move right on. I follow someone who says don't blow the day when saving the day is an option. Isn't that great? You ate one cookie, great. Don't make it 10. Stop at 1, and then guess what? You only had one cookie. With regard to what I can't comment without knowing what you're eating. I mean, the fact is, if you're doing what worked before, we would think it should be working, but I would need to know more about like what exactly you're eating and what's going on. If you take any medications.
Actually, I'm off medication.
Okay, good. So I normally don't encourage a lot of testing and measuring and all this, but when somebody's not losing weight, the first thing I do is tell them to check ketones, because we want to make sure that you are actually in ketosis. And then if you are, okay, we know your carbohydrate intake is low enough that you have a fat-based metabolism now. Now we have to look at other things. But I do, how to measure is so controversial. Some people will say urine strips don't work, only use blood. If you have a blood meter and you want to use that, that's fine. I think the urine strips do work for most people, and it's a lot of reasons why some people think they don't that I won't get into now. But I want to be clear about one point, though. You can absolutely be burning fat and have a fat-based metabolism even if you don't have high ketones. So some people check and they're like, oh, my ketones are so low. If you're only eating 20, 30, even 50 grams of carbohydrate a day, maybe you might not be in ketosis, but you're burning fat, because what else are you burning? You're only eating 40 grams of carbohydrate. You've got to be fueling on something. But if somebody's well and truly stuck in weight loss, I do think the first step is let me make sure I'm actually in ketosis. Okay, well, then I would look at fat. I would look at how much fat you're eating. I would look at thyroid, but because if you said, but if 2018 you lost 70 pounds, we're 4 years after the fact now. Your hormones might be very different now than they were then.
It's been 2 years that I've been at this.
Yeah, you could have, talk to me after. I would be curious if you have any other signs and symptoms of low thyroid, then that would definitely be something to look into.
I am on thyroid.
Oh, then definitely talk to me afterward.
Do you think that could be the bugger?
Talk to me after. Are you on Synthroid?
Yes.
Yeah, talk to me after. I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on YouTube, but that doesn't mean I don't know a thing about thyroid.
All you need is a whiteboard and or a pair of scrubs.
That's what I'm going to have to start doing. Yeah, no, you're on Synthroid. We'll chat later.
So I guess this question is mostly for you, Steve. The chaffle that was made out of, or the Oreo chaffle that you did, you said it was someone else's recipe. And you had a different type of cocoa, a dark cocoa. Does that actually make a difference, or is it purely for the look?
So I did the Oreo waffle showdown. Actually, I got a comment on someone that said, does it taste like coffee? I thought, well, if it did, I would call it the coffee chaffle, or maybe the coffle. But, so there were two in there. One used regular dark cocoa powder. The other used a thing called black cocoa powder. They are two different things. The dark cocoa powder is going to yield a chaffle that tastes more like anything brown from Hostess, like a Hostess cupcake or Ding Dong. The wife says Ding. She still eats carbs, so she's my go-to person if I need an answer on that. Whereas black cocoa powder is actually what is used in an Oreo, and it tastes like an Oreo. The problem is it's sort of a one-trick pony. I mean, the only thing you're going to use it in are things that you want to have taste like an Oreo. I haven't tried adding it to the Keto Chow cookies and cream, but something tells me that might be a way to kind of amp up that flavor.
And then another question, sorry, Steve, for you again.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
So I do the intermittent fasting with keto, I guess you could say. I'm very much not you got to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But when do you, I guess, I'm sure the nutritionist would probably say, dude, you're eating 5 plates in one sitting then. Yeah, you're fasting all day and then doing in one ginormous meal. No, don't do that. I guess, is that what you do or what? And I know in
Well,
the
she's
videos
actually
you said you
witnessed
don't.
me eat over the last 2 days. And what she witnessed is not normal because first, I rarely eat breakfast or a morning meal. We'll call it a morning meal because whenever you're done fasting, it's breakfast. And you can eat breakfast at any time of day. But normally I don't eat breakfast. I'm good with coffee. And normally I also don't eat lunch because I don't get hungry. I'm not like intermittent fasting because it's a thing. I intermittent fast because that's the way my body now. I'm not going to eat when I'm not hungry. I don't work off of a schedule that says it's 8 a.m. you are required to have bacon and eggs. It's noon you're required to have a burger or whatever. I eat when I'm hungry. I stop when I'm satisfied, which means I don't gorge myself on any meal because I hit a point and I'm like, okay, I'm good, you know. And Terry can testify, but this was not what I was 80 pounds ago. 80 pounds ago, I was a member of the Clean Your Plate Club, you know, so I would always finish however much was on my plate, and then I had 2 children that I'd be like, oh, you're not going to eat that? Put it on my plate. And I would finish that. There's I forget whether it was Jim Gaffigan or Louis C.K., there's a routine where he went to the doctor, and the doctor says, you know, do you stop eating when you're full? And he says, no, I don't stop eating till I hate myself. That's kind of what I was. That's how I knew I was done. I'm like, oh, I think I'm gonna puke. Mission accomplished. Now I have no qualms about leaving half a plate. And I'm like, okay, we'll slap a little cellophane on top of that. And then what do I say, dear?
Have an egg in the morning.
Slap an egg on it in the morning, you know, which I don't wind up actually doing because I don't eat breakfast. So it's like good in theory. But really, I let my body tell me when it's time to eat. And that means usually somewhere between 2 and 4, I'll have a snack, which for me is, you know, maybe, you know, some deli meat or some olives or some jalapenos. I'll just take a jar of jalapenos and a fork and just eat those straight up, or cheese, obviously, or I'll use cheese as my delivery device for jalapenos. I'll eat a few of those, maybe a handful of nuts, and then I'm good till dinner. That's, you know, like I said, it's not, I'm not trying to follow any sort of so-and-so YouTube guru says this is the way to do it. It's just, this is my keto. This is my fasting.
I have a question for you about the cocoa powder. I'm assuming the black one is there's like the Dutch process and the natural. Is that the difference between the two?
No, it's an entirely different creature in and of itself. And in the video, I make a mistake of tasting it straight out of the bag.
Because Hershey's makes the Dutch process, the alkalized, and the one that's not, and the one that's, I forget which is which, but one of them is very, very dark, and the other one's more like a light brown, normal cocoa powder.
No, this is
different, totally different thing.
This is
right. The natural is the darker one, but this is a totally different thing.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll mail you some.
You sure?
Yeah. You got to promise though to like get out to an Instagram short of you tasting it.
Then I'm gonna have to do something on Instagram. Oh my gosh.
So who's the voice in your head? Have you given it a name?
Well, I like Tallulah just because the woman who came up with that, I adore her, and I actually changed it last night at the hotel. I was like revamping some slides. I used to have the name Bertha there because Bertha's just like, what comes to mind when you hear the word Bertha? You know, you think of this.
Bertha.
Yes. So, but it's just, I don't like the way it sounds as much. So Tallulah's more like just I don't know. It's different. She's snottier. She's got a worse attitude than Bertha, I think, in my head.
Any other questions?
Simple question, end goal. So, yes, I've lost a ton of weight. I'm getting towards my goal weight, which is in my head. What happens? Everybody talks about maintenance, but what does that really look like? Because I'm kind of the same. I just eat when I'm hungry and then I stop and that's the end of it. So what does that transition look like from strict keto or my version of keto to maintenance? I'm not going to go and eat gummy bears and Twizzlers, but yet I could. And I'm not going to regain 50 pounds overnight, but then gateway to bread, right? You don't want to go back down the path. So is there any advice or strawberries, berries, start slow. I
So-
mean, there's all that common sense stuff, but
Yeah, I think I'll give you my answer first, and then I'm sure Amy already has one in her brain. I think if you're happy and enjoying the way that you're currently eating, what's the difference between that and maintenance? Maybe it's just eating a little bit more of what you're already eating, if you enjoy it. If there's something you really, really miss, and it's sort of one of those eat in moderation foods like strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, maybe go a little bit more on some nuts and things like that, then you do that. But or if say you get down to a certain body composition, you're like, well, now I'm feeling better. My knees don't hurt. My joints don't hurt. I want to start being a little more physically fit. I want to be getting out, maybe do some running, maybe do some lifting, whatever it is. You may decide, okay, well, I'm going to amp up my protein a little bit more. I think, me personally, I would largely leave carbs alone. For my goals, I don't feel like I need carbs to get energy. So if anything, if I'm trying to up calories, I would probably just up protein. Is what I would do personally.
It's called phase 3.
so the follow-up would be then it's not a pendulum, is that on the lifestyle, you're not going to end up going into anorexia. You're just going to your body will at some point just stabilize out with the food and calories that you're intaking. Naturally, it's not like you're just going to all of a sudden wither away and becoming like, if I'm only eating 1500 calories a day, I'm not going to end up.
I don't think that's going to be a concern for most of us. Right. I don't think any of us are going to put ourselves into a state of ketoacidosis, or anorexia or anything like that. I think what happens is you'll hit a point. You're like, hey, I'm looking great, and you can never be too rich or too thin, right? So, maybe you say, all right, well, and I'm happy eating this way. I'll just keep eating this way, but a little bit more of this way.
So stay the course.
Yeah,
stay the course and then listen to your body.
Anytime I start thinking, well, fortunately, I've had the opportunity or the misfortune of doing a lot of keto bread testing and tortillas and stuff. So fortunately, none of them have knocked me out of ketosis, but it really makes me feel like crap. And to me, that is the biggest non-scale victory. I tell this story, and I'll probably get choked up because I'm a big softy this way, but back when I was in my late 30s, I had gone to an orthopedic surgeon because I thought my knees needed replacing. They were just in that bad a shape. It hurt. It hurt every step upstairs, and it hurt worse going downstairs. And then one day, after being keto for a while, I was at Half Price Books. I don't know if that's a national chain, but they have them by us. And I'm in the cookbook section because I like getting my cookbooks for half price. And I'm down like this, looking at the bottom row for a long time, probably a couple of minutes, before I realized, what am I doing with my knees? This doesn't hurt. And I'm like, it was like when Pinocchio became a human boy. I'm like, I got no strings. It was the coolest thing. And to even get a hint of that pain, that inflammation again, is all it takes for me to remember why I keep doing keto. The weight, I've also said before, if you put that 80 pounds back on me, but you kept the inflammation away, you kept my blood pressure where it is now, my resting heart rate where it is now, I'd take that 80 pounds in a second. Fortunately, I don't have to make that choice. So, is that helpful? That was sort of a reluctant nod.
No, I have some thoughts, but I agree completely with what you said. Like, I would just keep eating what you're eating now and maybe increase the portions. You could also choose to reintroduce some things you're not eating now, which you also mentioned. You just have to know yourself, because that can be a slippery slope. Like there's certain things that I can have once in a while, and they're higher carb and it's fine once in a while. There's certain other things I can never go back to ever. That door has to remain locked forever. I just can't go back. And the thing is, and I don't want to be the devil's advocate too much here, but just remember, even if it's something pretty high, let's say rice or pasta or something. You do that once every 6 weeks or something, once every 8 weeks. You have a restaurant that you just love their X, you love it. None of us ever got into trouble with our weight or our health because we were eating that stuff once every 2 or 3 months. We were eating that stuff all day, every day. So some of us, once you reach your goal weight or you're happy with your health, you can have that once in a while. You just have to be careful not to let that once in a while turn back into every day, 4 times a week. But you could also choose to not do that and, just like Steve said, eat what you're eating now and just eat more of it, which I think is kind of what most people do, or just reintroduce small amounts of higher carb things than you might be eating now, but they're still lower, like certain fruits, maybe even like lentils are fairly low in carb compared to some other starch sources, just stuff like that. And I think, I wish, but none of us, I think, is going to accidentally lose too much weight. Like, oops, ooh, I got too thin. Oops, like, I wish. Sign me up for that accidental program. But it's a valid question, though. Yeah, and I think your body, I think you'll adjust. Your appetite will sort of naturally regulate, I think.
And maybe you'll win a copy of Your Carb Confusion, and then you just read up to, what does phase 3 look like?
There you go.
And it tells you, here are the things, that you can add back in pretty safely. And lentils are among those things.
Yeah.
Chickpeas and
beans,
stuff.
fruit.
Yep.
Not Snickers. There we go.
Snickerdoodle keto chow. Say,
Chris, I don't. If anyone's leaving comments on the live stream, I think we're happy to take questions. If anyone watching has questions, if I don't know.
Do you open it up?
I actually turned off comments because I wanted to fix the audio problems and not be bothered with that.
No problem.
Sorry, internet land.
Oops. In that case, strike that from the record.
Give it.
Anybody else have questions?
Your motivation. I've been able to do 2 and 3 day fasting with no problem. I feel great.
Yep.
After was in August, I think you did a 7, but you ended up going 10.
It was 150 or 170 hours, something like that. I don't remember.
And so as an inspiration,
it was a week and 7 days, 7.5 days.
I thought I'm going to do this. I got to day 4, almost day 5, and I was so weak. I just had to throw in the towels. Any prep work? What do you? Because my wife was like, "Why do you do that?" And it was because I'm in control. It's this great feeling.
Yeah, it's really it's a wild sensation that if you explain it to somebody who hasn't done it, they, my wife is laughing because she also just thinks I'm crazy. Well, she's like, whatever you want to do, I'm like, but I'm getting, skinnier. And she's like, if that's the way you want to look. I'm like, yeah. DeLauer's got like 6 million subscribers. Of course, I want to, wear a shirt 2 sizes too small and look good. But I got about 4 or 5 days in as well. And, if you watch the extended video that I did on it, there's a point, like, I look miserable. My face doesn't even look like it's working right anymore. It looked like maybe I had a stroke or something. And it was all about the electrolytes and getting the electrolytes dialed in. And the moment it turns out I was taking actually too many, and it was I was dehydrating myself because I was going to the bathroom way too much, and I'm gonna leave it right there. I was like right at the precipice of TMI, and I'm like, we're just gonna scooch a little moonwalk back away from that. Once I actually reduced them, and I don't recall specifically what the numbers were. I have a spreadsheet, but one of my viewers said, who's got a lot of experience with it, said Walmart makes this electrolyte drink that's non-sugar, it's like no flavor, and he says you just get one of those, you drink 2 liters of that a day or something, and it works out perfect. So I'm like, okay, I'll remember that for the next time. But for me, it was about the electrolytes, and the moment I got those dialed in, I went back to the way I was feeling on days 3 and 4, where really you feel like I've got a superpower. I no longer require food. And it's wild, the amount of energy and focus. And I mentioned this in the video as well, my vision. Like, I would go out in the morning for a walk and I'm like, wow, everything seems so vibrant, I can really see. And I think that's probably built into our genetics as hunter-gatherers. So like when we were hungry, it makes sense that our vision would get better so that we could see our prey, whether that's a berry, out in the tall grass, or, whether it's the, rabbit we want to catch or whatever. But it was pretty wild, the changes that you would experience fasting.
Thank you. Yeah, because your strawberry story, your grandson.
Oh yeah, the sense of smell too. My son or grandson wanted to know if we had any strawberries, and I was in the backyard, and I'm like, yeah, I think we got some. Went over like the strawberry patch, and we're digging through, and sure enough, there was a great big strawberry in there.
I appreciate your, I'll call it honesty. When you showed your notch, that was when I knew you had a lifetime fan. You're honest about things, and thank you.
It's the only way I know how to be. That's why I did that 6-part series on like how I got to keto and transitioned. There are some people on YouTube, and I'm not talking specifically keto people. I'm talking just in general. They're really, you can tell they're like a character or caricature in some instances.
Are you talking about me?
No,
Come on.
no. There are some people that are a little bit over the top, and it's almost. Anybody watch Blippi? Okay, like if you got kids at the right age, like Blippi's like everyone's like, oh boy, look what we have here. Look at this toy. This is amazing. And I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be the person that people could say, oh wow, this is just a normal schmo who went through some tough stuff in life, and he was overweight and he was miserable. He's not special. He doesn't have a trainer. He doesn't have any special pharmaceuticals that he's taking to get better, or more muscular or lean or whatever. He's just a guy like me, just a normal schmo that just happened to start a YouTube channel. And hopefully then, it makes it more relatable and, helps convince people, well, if this knucklehead can do it, I can do it. That's my hope. Now I will say, in case we're done getting questions, is because I want to kind of close the way that you started.
Oh, well, I have a question, but
okay.
it's I actually have a question for the audience. So I don't know if we can,
go.
I don't know what order we should do it in. What's missing from the keto world? What do you need? And you might not have an answer now. You can email me, you can whatever. What would help you that isn't already out there, that somebody's not talking about, somebody's not teaching you? I run out of ideas sometimes for my channel, like of new things to talk about. And I know I can go back to things I talked about 2-3 years ago and like refresh it, because I have new people that just subscribe to my channel that aren't going to go back and watch a 3-year-old video. So I can always mine older content, but I'd rather, if there's something, is there a hole in the keto space that you see that would benefit you if somebody was there doing whatever that thing is? And again, you might not have the answer now, but it's something to contemplate. I would love the ideas, inspiration, whatever. I mean, I can't promise, like you might propose something and I'm like, oh, that's not really my area of expertise, but
that was going to be one of my questions to you both, is like you got your knees feeling better without surgery, and I think you had said it was due to some sort of oils, or I can't remember exactly what in your video, but where did you come up with that even? I mean, because you obviously were tracking some sort of stuff. So in general, where would you start off with cutting out? I mean, of course, allergy tests, okay, get down to doing nothing or whatever and start adding things to see what's affecting you. Or maybe that's what we need to do. That's fine. Give me a checklist, I guess. Or I don't keep it simple. The KISS principle.
I think my advice for if you want to keep it simple, to me, an elimination diet is not the way I would go. Because that just feels like misery to me, Okay, how long do I got to eat just this one thing before I add in this just next thing? I would just take my phone and take a picture of everything that I eat, and then keep a journal. Just open up a file in Word or Google Docs or whatever, and you put in the date, and here's how I felt. Then what you can do is if you're like, oh, wow, felt like crap this day, or create an Excel spreadsheet and just like, how did I feel, 1 through 5? And you can start looking at dates and saying, okay, on December 5th, I felt like crap. Let me take a look at the pictures from December 4th. Do I start, do a little detective work, on that, and you might start finding certain things. It took me a while to figure out it was soybean oil for me. Canola oil maybe as well. I don't know, because I try and steer clear of both of those as much as possible, but I absolutely positively found out that it was with all the bread and tortilla tests. I'm like, this is the one consistent thing. I kept a spreadsheet and I'm like going through all the ingredients for each one of them. Every one of them that caused me inflammation, I'm like, soybean oil, soybean oil, soybean oil. All right, we found the smoking gun.
And a question, is it only a little bit of soybean oil that will?
It doesn't take, for me, it doesn't take much.
Like a gram?
Whatever's in a slice of, some of this keto bread, that'll do it. Or I'll have a salad dressing or something like that and not have realized, okay, I guess I should have.
So part of what my question is getting at, is it omega-6 or is it something specific to the soybean oil? Is it linoleic acid?
So,
because that's the omega-6 prototype. Or is it something very specific to soybean oil?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's something specific to soy or even soybeans, because I've had black soybeans, use them in chili or to make refried beans,
And you don't get the
and I don't get the inflammation. I'll have soy sauce in a marinade or on.
that's fermented, so that's
Okay.
very different.
But, so that's sort of the extent of my experience. I've determined that here's a bad ingredient, and I haven't dug down necessarily to the why. I just have chosen, to me, I know enough to move on with my life and not eat that. And I suppose if I ate some additional things with omega-6s, that would answer the question.
Yeah.
And if at some date I do that, I'll probably put that in a podcast. You have my word.
So the other things to compare would be canola oil and corn oil, because those are both high in omega-6s.
Or sunflower oil or something like that, yeah.
Sunflower oil and, seed oils in general. Yeah.
So, when, as I said, I was going to end this sort of the way that you started it. When we first met, it's sort of interesting. It's like I'm not going to say like we're both eyeing each other up, like who's the alpha here, or like who's going to be wide receiver number 1, who's going to be wide receiver number 2, on the team. But there was I sense this sort of like, okay, at least this like, okay, are we going to agree or are we going to disagree? Is this going to be one of these things where we get up and we give 2 conflicting messages, and we're both sort of biting our tongues while the other person is talking? And it's like every single thing that either of us have said, like we look at each other and we're like, and multiple times we've said, it's like, well, I feel like we're the same person. It's really been good, and I give credit to Chris for pairing us together. I think that he did it. Or Miriam.
And Miriam.
Did it?
Miriam too.
I don't. Miriam's not the one that texts me, so I didn't know.
But I'll still turn the head.
Okay. So I really appreciate you guys bringing us together. I think we're probably going to see some collaboration between the two of us. I don't know if she's got a narrator for her next audio book or her next book.
I think I do now.
But I'd like to thank Chris and Miriam for bringing us together and bringing all of us together. So thank you. All right.
Okay, well, thank you, TV Land, and we will catch you at our next meetup in February.
Thanks for watching. Oh, my legs are asleep.